Hi and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to paint a village in watercolour and I will explain my methods and the materials as we go. The drawing I've done beforehand and it's available on my website. The details I'll put below in the comments. The paper we're using is Saunders Waterford's Rough, £140. First I'm going to start off with the sky. Mix up a puddle of cobalt blue with just a little bit of light red in it, using a medium mop brush. Just checking the colours. Now with this particular sky, I want it to look like it was a bit of a windy day, so I'm just very lightly brushing the colour across. And I'll be using very dilute raw sienna for the clouds, and as I come down here I'll just be putting a little bit of water to make it lighter as it comes to the horizon. This particular village is in Essex. It's quite close to Saffron Walden. Just finishing off the sky. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a little bit of Payne's grey to the mix and use it for a first coat road. Trying to get these first coats out of the road first, and then I'll be doing the grassy areas next. A little bit of sap green, quite a lot of sap green actually, too much there. We just have to tone that down a bit. Sienna. Just get a coat of green on the bits of grassy areas. Don't be too fussy. Dried that. Now I'm going to start working from left to right, rooftops of the houses. Starting with a nice thick mix of burnt sienna. Vary these slightly as I go round. This closest house is going to be burnt sienna with a different colour. Chimney. When you're putting the washes on, try to just go over once. If you start from the top and work down, if you're a bit slower than I am, it should still be okay. I like to make the chimneys really dark against the sky when I do buildings. This other house quite close to it comes up quite blue, so I'm just going to give that a coat of cerulean blue. And just working my way around the earthy colours. Sienna. I don't always work like this. The roofs and the walls next, but in this particular case, because it's quite busy, I like things to dry, working from left to right. Then I'll go back to the left in a short while. No, that is dried. Nice, interesting scene. Quite complex, but when you're doing areas like the roofs and the walls and that, you can do an area and then come back to it later on if you want. But try and do the painting all in one go. Now the walls were magnolia, and I've used a colour called, I think it is the right way of saying it, jaune brilliant, which is a nice creamy colour. Starting to work around the walls with various colours. This came across as white blue, that part of this closest house. Using a No.10 Escoda round on these areas now. I've used it. I'll use it for quite a lot of the painting actually. Got a very nice point on it. I quite like the Escoda brushes. Another shade of blue. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to work out how to keep going with this and not have too much wet paint everywhere. So I'll do areas that are separate from other areas, so they run into each other, and then work my way backwards and forwards. Remembering when you do these colours, they will dry lighter, so don't add too much water. Still popping in the roofs. This one's in raw umber behind the blue house. It takes a while when you're doing paintings like this where there's lots of areas with different colours before it actually starts to look, before it starts to look anything really. It's not until you start putting the darks in, it all looks a bit bland first of all. So when you start putting the darks in is when it starts coming to life. I'm also going to be using a No.6 round, number 10, number 10 round Escoda. So it's a number 10 and a number 12 I'm going to be using. Do most of the painting with this. Now this is dry brush with raw umber, using the side of the brush. Try not to cover too much. It's the first coat on the trees. Nice dark colour. Dark blue for a tree just on the right hand side, just to vary it a little bit. I will be coming back to the trees just to darken them up. Just popping on some burnt sienna, just give it a bit of shadow. Got some bushes at the front here, so not fussing about too much with these. Only the first coat. Just try and make some interesting shapes. This is quite a complex painting really, so if you wanted to look at parts of the of where I am with it, you can look at the chapter numbers, which is on the bar underneath. If you put your cursor down on there, you can go backwards and forwards on that if you don't want to watch the entire painting process. You can move yourself along to the to near the end. It's completed. If you don't have time to watch it all. I think it's good to put the whole process on here, so that if you do have time, you can see exactly where I started and finished in real time. Now I do paint quite fast. That's just the way I've always painted. Just popping in some shadows here and there, bushes, that kind of thing. Putting in some distant trees or whatever in the distance there, and using a grey colour so that you get the so you get the recession, the look of recession there. It recedes, it goes back. Same with the green. It's quite a grey green. so that it looks like they're set back in the distance. When you use these cooler colours, they do kind of go back. Warm colours bring it forward. I am stopping every now and then and drying it off and then coming back to it, which is why it jumps. The picture jumps every now and then. Just popping in some shadows, which will be done in a blue colour, cobalt blue. These are just the shadows that are there from the trees that you can't see on the right hand side. This is where the painting starts to come to life. As you can see, I'm working my way around the palette. Putting a second coat now onto the roof of the house at the front, leaving some gaps, which will look quite attractive when it dries out. So it's not just a flat colour on that roof. Just going around again from left to right, popping bits in, just a shadow. Just adding a bit more to this tree on the right hand side behind this house on the right, which will bring that house forward. I'm now using a small dagger brush, which is size, it's a quarter of an inch. Have a nice point on them. Popping in some random marks on the grass at the front here on the left. At the same time working on these bushes. Nice warm colours on the wall of this house, which is burnt sienna and raw sienna, bringing that right forward. Now this is a rigger brush that I'm starting to use. It's a very small brush, obviously good for doing rigging on boats and things like that, but it's very good for doing these fine lines. I use them for doing things like window frames, that kind of thing. I'm just going to work my way around now doing these fascias and bits on the roofs, windows, doors, using the rigger brush, which is the dark colour, neutral tint. And I may vary it just a little bit here and there with French ultramarine, which is the blue. This is where the picture starts to take shape a little bit with the darks and the lights. Very attractive old houses here in this village. A lot of them are quite old, probably 100 years old. All different shapes. In reality, there's a lot more going on the front of these houses with hanging baskets and bushes and fences and things like that, but I've kept this to the bare minimum really, just to simplify it. And just working on the trees. Don't put too many branches in, it's so easy to get carried away with this. Just put a few. Just give the impression of a lot of branches. Moving on to the house at the back right. It's got all different size windows. Still working from right to left. So when I go back on the left, things should have dried off a bit. Working on this tree just behind the house, which is going to be, gives me a chance to paint a very nice shadow in a minute. It can be very easy when you're using the rigger to actually start putting too much detail in. I'm guilty of that myself sometimes, fall into the trap. So I'm just trying to put the bare minimum of marks in here. It could have been looser with the windows. I could have just done black marks, but in this instance I wanted to actually give the impression of some glass. So I'm using Payne's grey, neutral tint and French ultramarine. Working on these twigs and branches and things on these bushes at the front here. Working quite fast. Trying to keep the marks quite random. It's something you can't teach this really. Doing foliage, that kind of thing. You just got to practice doing it really. And everybody will do it slightly different, have their own style, which is what makes your paintings interesting. All got different styles. Give the impression of a few bits of fences and things like that. I think the original fence here was quite neat actually, but I've just given it, made it look like it's just a few bits of wood nailed together. Still working on these windows. Takes quite a bit of time to get around and do the bits like the windows and finish off the chimney pots, that kind of thing. Now sped the film up a little bit, dried it off. Now going around with a putty rubber, losing the pencil marks on the white houses mainly. They're quite easy to get off because they're unpainted. Sometimes I'll leave the pencil marks in, but in this occasion I'll take them off. Putting these nice shadows from trees with the light coming from right to left. This is what will bring the painting to life. It kind of pops into life with these shadows. I like the shadows on white houses to be predominantly blue in colour. Just popping some shadows across the road. Keeping it all very simple. Not overdoing it. It could be the shadows coming from trees that you can't see to the right. Imaginary trees. Probably one of my favourite parts doing this. I'll draw a little bit lighter. And then back with the rigger. Just emphasising bits and pieces that I want to emphasise, like the roof line on the house at the back there kind of disappeared in the sky. A few marks in the road, just to make it just a little bit more interesting than just plain blue. Do a little bit of work on this house on the right, showing where the roofs meet. Popping in a chimney at the back that I forgot to put in. Once again, doing some work on these windows. I'm trying to give the impression of panes of glass and handles and things like that, just with some marks. That's the finished painting. I've covered quite a difficult subject quite quickly, I think. I'm happy with the results. It's nice and light and has a nice feel to it. Hope you enjoyed watching.